AITA for sticking to my word and refusing to help my husband with his mom? My F33 mother-in-law fell extremely sick and has been bedridden for 3 months now. Her husband is deceased and her daughter and 2 sons, who didn't even bother to visit, live towns away. So my husband is left to fully take over her care. He wanted to bring her to live with us, but I said no and had my reasons for that. One of them is that our home isn't fit for disabled patients, and I already explained this to him. But he chose to pick an argument and say I don't want him to help his mom, but that is not true. I suggested he pays for a carer and said no when he asked that I contribute money with him, and the reason is that his mom has assets he could sell to pay for a carer. I suggested a home care, but he got very offended and said I was nuts to suggest such thing. After shut down all my suggestions, I made it clear I will not be taking any part in his mom's care or be dragged unwillingly in her care. He said okay, then moved in with her now, and I bring him meals occasionally, just doing what I can. The other day, I was in the kitchen reheating his dinner when I heard him shouting for me to come help lift his mom off the floor after she fell off the bed. I went to see what's going on but refused to get involved. He asked what the F I was doing standing by the door and staring. I reminded him that I will be helping out after he shut down other means of help, and he started lashing out at me, saying he had no time for my pettiness and insisted I help him lift his mom, but I just turned and walked out, leaving him yelling for my help. I stayed in the kitchen for a few minutes, then he barged in calling me cruel and unhinged for seeing him in his struggle and refusing to help just to prove a point. I told him he shouldn't act surprised, and he replied that he couldn't help but feel surprised that I was this unhinged and petty. I said I'm not petty, I'm just setting boundaries and sticking to them, and I did not volunteer to be a carer. I'm not qualified and neither is he, but he argued that being sympathetic and helping his family doesn't require any form of qualification. He lectured me about how appalling my behavior was, how I could have helped just a little, then said that his mom will never forget me just standing there and refusing to help. The guilt tripping got me overwhelmed, so I grabbed my stuff and went home. My mom knew and berated me for what I've done. She said I should be proud of my husband for being a stand-up guy who helps his family instead of guilting him and making him feel like he's making a mistake for choosing to support his family. He called me later and cried, saying I hurt him with my behavior and he never expected me to act this way towards him and his loved ones. I felt awful because I'm a sympathetic person and this wasn't my intention. I was just trying to make him understand he doesn't have to carry a weight he cannot bear nor drag me along with it. I'm happy he's willing to help his family, but I don't want to be used if he's okay with being used. AITA? YTA. I didn't think you were unreasonable until I read you willing left his mom on the floor. That turned it around real fast. YTA. It's not like he asked you to care for her for an entire shift. Or even an hour. Just 30 seconds helping through a semi-emergency situation. I mean, most people would help an elderly woman who fell on the floor even if she were a stranger. And there's no social connection there. Except being a decent fellow human. And you couldn't do that for your own mother-in-law? Oh heck yes. YTA. His mother fell and you refused to help her. There is not a scenario in which it's okay for you to leave your meal on the floor. Your husband is right. You're cold and petty and uncaring. YTA. You were fine up until refusing to help when a frail, dependent, elderly woman fell and it became more important to prove your point. You not only were petty but cruel. Wherever point you were trying to make was vaporized after that stunt. YTA. She was lying on the floor for F's sake. It was an accident. You help people when they have accidents. You should have helped with that and then going back to your boundaries. The rest of this story is another story, with too much missing info. But you're definitely an awe and extremely petty to leave her lying on the floor. So, you left an elderly woman on the floor while your husband struggled to take care of his mother to prove a point? YTA. YTA YTA YTA. It's one thing to avoid helping in the daily care, but another to see someone laying on the floor and refuse to help. I wouldn't even leave a stranger on the ground, much less my mother-in-law. And that was a woman I couldn't stand. You even admit being overwhelmed by guilt. So you already know the answer. You should have helped her, then used the opportunity to point out that she needs more care than you can provide. But instead you proved that not helping a person in need is the hill you or your marriage are willing to die on. YTA, not for having boundaries and trying to enforce them, but don't come here telling us that you're a sympathetic person. I wouldn't even treat a stranger the way you did to your husband and your mill. If you see someone fall, you stop and help them. That's what a sympathetic person would do. Even when it's a stranger. You see your family fall down laying on the floor and you choose to walk away. How are you even able to justify that? He didn't call you all hours every day for help. He didn't ask you to come over to her house to help him take care of her. You were there when an accident happened and you couldn't bother to lift a finger because you wanted to prove your point. How petty. Not the right time and not the right place. You could have easily helped them and then sat down with your husband and used that as an example of why he needs more help from someone that is educated and experienced to deal with that kind of care. Are you kidding me? YTA. I understand not wanting to have her in your home, but not even flinch to help the lady that literally fell from the bed. PLs define sympathetic for me. BC, your definition seems blurry. This says a lot about your character. This is not standing your ground. You are just mean and unthoughtful and not sympathetic. Let that be very clear. What if the situation was reverse and your husband just went about his dandy life while you struggle? It's just basic humanity. And she is your husband's mother. True, you didn't marry his family, but I bet a drop of sympathy would urge you to at least be kind while around her. YTA. This isn't about boundaries. This is about you not even having the most basic level of human compassion. YTA. Maybe you don't see this yet, but what you did that day has forever broken your relationship with your husband. I don't see how you can ever come back from this. It's entirely possible that he'll choose to break up. But even if he does decide to forgive you, a part of him will always see you as the woman who left him alone with his sick mother on the floor. I'm sorry, Op, but you seriously fucked up. Wow. Your husband is right. YTA. 100%. Not helping him, her with daily needs is one thing. But if she fell and you see your husband struggling, it takes a special kind of cold-hearted person to leave them there. What if that was your mom? Poor guy. YTA. Your husband isn't guilt-tripping you. He is expecting you to have a little compassion. In what way would it hurt you to help your mill off the floor after she fell? It sounds like you two don't have kids. If I were him, I'd be divorcing you over your actions. YTA. That's disgusting. Your husband is doing what any halfway decent son should do for his parents. Nobody wants their kids to pass them off to some hired stranger in their old age. You are being extremely self-centered and irresponsible. One day you'll be the old lady on the floor. And I hope you remember this. YTA. Wow. Just wow. For just a moment, put yourself in your husband's shoes. Would you be happy if he behaved this way if it were your mother who needed help? When you marry someone, you marry their family also. Their family becomes your family too. Not allowing your very ill Mill to move in with you is one thing. But refusing to help lift her when she fell? Whoa. Something altogether deplorable. Your husband sounds like a wonderfully caring, selfless person. You should count your lucky stars that he's your husband. Your entire attitude regarding his mother has absolutely nothing to do with setting boundaries. And quite frankly sucks. I wouldn't be surprised if he filed for divorce over this. I sure would. YTA bruh, if my future spouse did that with my mother, I will be handing in the divorce papers. So much YTA. Do you honestly think his mother enjoys being in this position? Or your husband enjoys seeing his mom decline? This is his mother. Of course he's going to do all he can. You as his partner could have at least helped him pick this poor woman up off the floor. He's right. You are cruel and petty. I absolutely see a divorce in your future and him finding a woman who will actually love and care for his family as much as him. NTA. I should have set the boundaries when my handicapped Mill was forced upon me after my Phil passed away. Only for her to cause major trauma in my relationship. Once she was well enough, we put her in a home. And she is no longer speaking to us. After months of manipulation, stress and constant drama caused by this woman within the family in our home, my husband eventually could not handle it, and made the decision on his own to move her out. Edit. Spelling. Your Mill needs professional care. Your husband shouldn't be lifting her, full stop. There's a reason professional carers use hoists and other equipment to prevent injuring themselves or the patient. You were 100% right that your husband is not qualified to help his mother, and that point was clear when he didn't know how to pick her up off the floor by himself. You, however, were a stone-cold cruel person to not assist in an emergency. Had she been fully healthy and mobile and fell, you surely would have helped in that moment, so that was a prime move right there. You need to apologize but stress that this incident was proof that your husband cannot do this by himself. He needs to find a caregiver to come to the house or put his mother in a proper facility with trained staff who have the needed medical and occupational therapy training that his mother needs. This isn't a shortcoming of your husband. He has proven he wants to take care of her. Tell your husband that if she had brain cancer, he wouldn't try to operate on her. This is exactly the same, except he has convinced himself he is a brain surgeon. Or to exit the metaphor, he thinks he is a combination nurse and physical therapist. There is no shame in needing help, and it is time he put his ego aside.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.